Today we're going to be looking at the Green Day iceberg. From their debut in the early 90s, Green Day have propelled themselves to massive success, along with other bands in the punk scene around them. Bands like Blink-182 and Sum 41 would be nowhere near where they are today if it wasn't for Green Day. And along their many albums, they have reached worldwide stardom. Before I start, I want to quickly say two things. I want to thank AntsBob13 for letting me use his iceberg, and I want to thank you guys for letting me get to 50 subscribers. I know that sounds really corny, but the fact that my Radiohead iceberg reached nearly 3,000 viewers is insane that people have seen that. So yeah, I'm trying to get to 100 by the end of the year, and without further ado, let's get into this. Bullet in a Bible. Kicking off the iceberg, we get their 2005 live album, Bullet in a Bible, which was when they played Milton, England. It's a pretty good performance, you should go check it out, it's got a solid set list. Dookie. Dookie was Green Day's 1994 third studio album that would propel them into stardom. American Idiot. American Idiot is Green Day's seventh studio album and probably their most critically acclaimed, with songs like Boulevard and Broken Dreams and the title track, American Idiot. The album was also a concept album, which would go down very well with the fans, inspiring their next release, 21st Century Breakdown, which would be another concept album touching on political topics similarly to American Idiot. Father of All Motherf***. Father of All Motherf*** is their most recent album. It has been critically panned and also contained this sign in the rollout. American Idiot on Broadway. American Idiot on Broadway is referring to how American Idiot got its own Broadway representation. I actually went to see this live and it was pretty good. They added in a couple more songs and yeah. Welcome to Paradise in Surf's Up. It's pretty self-explanatory. Their song Welcome to Paradise was in the movie Surf's Up. Nimrod. Nimrod is Green Day's fifth studio album and probably my personal favourite. The only other contender is another album that's going to be coming up later next year. Trilogy. Trilogy is referring to three Green Day albums, Uno, Dos, and Trey. I'm sorry, I might have butchered those. Anyways, they're mostly hated by the audience, but they got some bangers in there. F*** Time, Certified Hood Banger. I'm not even joking. There is a song called F*** Time. The Network. The Network is kind of like the Voids for the Strokes, but instead of the Strokes, it's Green Day. It's just a side project for the band. It's kind of like Green Day with an electronic twist. iHeartRadio Meltdown. Ending Layer 1, we get the infamous iHeartRadio Meltdown. This is Green Day's reaction to having their cut short on the iHeartRadio performance, I don't know. And this was how they reacted. I'll play you the clip now.
Give me a break. 1 minute left. 1 minute left. You're gonna give me 1 minute? Look at that sign right there. 1 minute. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I've been around since 1988.
Anyways, then they get angry and Mike and Billy throw their instruments everywhere. Insomniac. Insomniac is Green Day's fourth studio album, and probably my favourite. It includes some hits like Geek Stink Breath and Brain Stew. Their name is a weed reference. This one's pretty self-explanatory, so call me a theorist here, but I think the green means weed. Kerplunk. Kerplunk is Green Day's second studio album and would be their last under an indie record label before they would sign to Reprise. Music-wise, the album is great and has some of my favourite songs on there. Although it didn't create any hits, it created the fan favourite 2000 Light Years. No Fun Mondays. No Fun Mondays was Billy Joel's first solo effort, apart from some other collaborations outside of Green Day. The album's under the Green Day artist tag on Spotify. I don't know any other streaming services, but it seems pretty good. Mike Drunt wrote Longview's bass line on Acid. So this is basically referring to how when in an interview Mike Drunt was asked how he wrote the bass line for Longview, he replied with this. I was laying up against the wall. My bass was lying on my lap. It just came to me. I said, Billy, check this out. Isn't it the wickedest thing you ever heard? Later, it took me a long time to be able to play it, but it made sense when I was on drugs. Cigarettes and Valentines. Cigarettes and Valentine was Green Day's lost album that would eventually become American Idiot. They have played some of the songs from it live, but they would end up losing the tapes as they got stolen. Instead of re-recording them, they started a new album that would become American Idiot. Revolutionary Radio. Revolutionary Radio is Green Day's 13th studio album, and probably one of the better of their latest catalogue. It's a fan favourite and definitely looked upon as one of their best. Banned from 924 Gilmans. So Gilmans is a location where a lot of bands can play, and basically when Green Day got signed to Reprise, they were kicked out as they didn't like major label performances playing there, although they did get unbanned as they performed there in 2015. And I'm going to jam-pack this one in here as well. The story of Platypus. So Platypus is one of the songs about Gilman Street and the owner. A lot of songs are about it as well, like FOD and 86. But basically, it's referring to these lyrics. I will read them off as follows. Dirty and I hope you die. Adrienne Armstrong. I don't know why this has its own layer. It's Billy Joe's wife. Woodstock 1994 mud fights. So this is basically referring to how their set at Woodstock 1994 would have a lot of rain and the ground would be very wet and the mud would become the dirt would become mud. And while this performance would propel Dookie to stardom, it would also kind of just result in a big mud fight, and there's a lot of pictures. Warning. Warning is Green Day's 6th album and probably not their least known, but definitely their least popular. Billy's bisexual. This is basically referring to how Billy Joe Armstrong in a 1995 interview came out as bisexual. I read somewhere that a lot of the songs are about him being bisexual, but I couldn't find anything on this. Gilman demos. The Gilman demos are basically the recordings of their live performances that would become demos for their earlier songs on 1039 and Kerplunk. Shenanigans. Shenanigans was an outtakes compilation that was released in between Warning and American Idiot. Story of Wake Me Up When September Ends. So the story of Wake Me Up September Ends was written about Billy Joe's dad when he died when Billy was 10, and the song is basically about when he died of cancer, and apparently he said Wake Me Up When September Ends. Foxborough Hot Tubs. Ending Layer 2, we get Foxborough Hot Tubs. Similarly to the network, it's another Green Day side project. Not much to say about this one. We're now going into Layer 3. American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown B-sides. I don't know why this gets its own like entry, but it's basically just referring to the B-sides from the singles around that era, and they were pretty good. Bowling, 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 parking, parking. So bowling, 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 parking, parking is a live album by Green Day. It was their first, and it was released after the Dookie World Tour and contained a bunch of songs from that tour. Radio Days and On the Radio. Radio Days and On the Radio were very common bootlegs around their early era, like I'm talking pre or post Kerplunk era. So it's basically kind of their first greatest hits record, if you want to look at it like that. Jason White's Cancer. Jason White's Cancer is referring to how the touring guitarist for the trilogy, Jason White, was diagnosed with cancer, forcing him to leave the band as the touring guitarist. The trilogy of concept albums. So the trilogy of concept albums is referring to a very niche Green Day conspiracy theory that, the trilogy are concept albums. I found a Reddit thread on this that I will link in the description, but this was one of the replies. In a very loose sense, yes. I remember the band describing it as a sort of party concept. Uno being the upbeat excitement before going to the party, Dos being the wild, drunk, grimy party, and Tre being the self-reflection morning after the party. 21st Century Breakdown performed in its entirety. I don't know why this has its own entry, but sometimes bands like to perform albums live in their entirety, and Green Day did it with 21st Century Breakdown. I'll link the article in the description, but I don't know why it has its own entry. Controversial father of all Billboard. So this is basically referring to this billboard I showed earlier. Apparently some people got offended by it. Sweet Children. Sweet Children is referring to how before Green Day was called Green Day, their band name was called Sweet Children. They also had a song on Kerplunk also called Sweet Children. Roll, roll, roll your joint. Roll, roll, roll your joint is referring to this video of Trey Cool.
Roll, roll a joint twisted at the ends. Light it up and take a puff and pass it to your friends.
I have no idea where the video is from, but I found it on YouTube. John Kiffmar. John Kiffmar was the drummer for Green Day and was their original drummer before Trey Cool came in Kerplunk. He did record on their first album though, but it's pretty much the Pete Best of Green Day. The Long Shot. The Long Shot is a band Billy frontmans with Jeff Madica. Not much to say about this one. Insomniac Cover Skulls. Insomniac Cover Skulls is referring to how on the poster or 25th anniversary cover of Insomniac, there's basically 3 skulls on the front, and the third one was very hard to find. There's this one, and then this one stretched out in the bottom right. That one was the one that was hard to find for fans. Misheard lyric video. So I wasn't 100% sure about this one, so I messaged the creator, and he said that this one was the one. So a misheard lyric video is basically when they just take a song and they just put in a bunch of silly stuff for what they think it is. I'll play you a little clip of this one here. It's off Holiday. If there's anything else that you think it might be, please tell me in the comments. Gloria is What's Her Name theory. So in the concept album for American Idiot, basically one of the characters is called What's Her Name, and she is not given a name, of course, and she's the love interest of the album. And the love interest of 21st Century Breakdown is called Gloria. So people have a theory that What's Her Name is actually Gloria and they're the same person. I personally don't really have a say in this, but it could be plausible. Anyways, moving on to layer 4. Billy Joe dropkicks a fan. Billy Joe dropkicks a fan is referring to how in a video on YouTube, after finishing a performance of Geek Stink Breath, Billy Joe jumps into the crowd after a rowdy mosh pit member starts flipping them off and overall just being a d***. Anyways, after Billy says,
Hey, come here, you little mohawk mother. Come here. You want to come up here and fight? I'll fight you right now. Come on, get up.
Billy proceeds to then put his guitar down and jump into the mosh pit as security throws him back and forth. The performance is pretty fun, I'll just let you see the rest. Look for Love. Look for Love is referring to a 1977 recording of Billy Joe's first ever song. He was a kid around this time, and it's just very cute to hear this, and this would be the guy that would eventually write Take Back. Anyways, I linked the song in the description, and I recommend you guys check it out. I'll play you a little snippet of it now.
Look for love, look for love, look for love. When everything seems to go wrong.
$2 bill. $2 bill is referring to a post that was made onto the Today I Learned subreddit, stating, "Today I learned Billy Joe Armstrong, frontman of Green Day, had the nickname $2 Bill in high school because he sold joints for $2. The legitimacy of this claim is pretty, dicey, but I'll link this in the description. Secret 2001 Gilman Show. So this one's pretty self-explanatory, although I'm not 100% sure on it. So apparently there was a 2001 Gilman Show, although I could only find one about 2015. Could you guys please correct me in the comments? Pinhead Gunpowder. Pinhead Gunpowder is a band that formed in 1991. The only way that I can see this important in the Green Day timeline is that Billy Joe must have met Jason White through this band because they were both in it. Billy Got Robbed. Billy Got Robbed is referring to how in early 2001, Billy Joe Armstrong was mugged. There is an article going in way more depth than I ever could, and I'll link it in the description right now. But yeah, he basically got wounded. Billy was a vegetarian. Billy was a vegetarian is referring to an article by a website called Happy Cow that apparently Billy Joe was like a vegetarian for a while. A lot of the comments are saying that the band has said that he's not, but I'll just link this in the description and you guys can come to your own conclusions. Oasis controversy. Oasis controversy is referring to how one Noel Gallagher said the Boulevard of Broken Dreams is a ripoff of Wonderwall. As an Oasis fan, I genuinely can't put up with the Gallagher twins' tweets and claims like this. Anyways, I'll read you the article. Oasis star Noel has accused punk trio Green Day of ripping off his song Wonderwall for their hit Boulevard of Broken Dreams. It seems that Gallagher is unaware the entirety of American Idiot was composed by an Augean grocery store clerk in 1992. Since Wonderwall was released in 1995, that means Oasis also ripped off the grocery store clerk that did Dillinger 4. There's a D in your monument. This is referring to a post that was made on Facebook. It's not even by the real Trey Cool. Why does this episode entry? I walk a lonely road, the only one that I've ever known. Those fabled lyrics you relate to. We are now going into the deepest depths of Green Day lore. I hope no woman comes near you. Nearly broke up in 1995. Nearly broke up in 1995 is referring to when The Long Shot, remember that band I talked about a couple of layers ago, started. People had worries that the band was going to break up. I'll link the article talking about this in the description. Joey Armstrong allegations. Joey Armstrong allegations is referring to how musician Lyndon Knight accused Joey Armstrong of
sexual misconduct.
I'll link the article about this in the description, but I don't really want to talk about it. It's just a big rabbit hole I don't want to go down, really. Magnum opus of the inglorious kind. So from what I could find, this is referring to a leaked album or a lost album by Green Day. I found a Reddit thread on it, and this was one of the response. It's a fake album made up by the band called Pansyland. It's basically a fanfic Green Day album, and it's really good so far. Listen to them on SoundCloud. I genuinely couldn't find much about this. If you could please tell me what this is about in the comments, that'd really be helpful. Westbound Sign in Cars trailer. So this is basically referring to how Green Day's song Westbound Sign off Insomniac is in the 2005 teaser trailer for the 2006 movie Cars. I'll play you a little clip from it here. "2003 war aesthetic." So the 2003 war aesthetic is basically the post-9/11 war against America and Iraq. I'll be throwing up some pictures of it, but Green Day pretty much pioneered it with their 2003 album American Idiot. Sesame Street legal dispute. So this is basically referring to how on the back of the Dookie cover on CD and vinyl, there was originally some guy just holding an Ernie puppet, but because Jim Henson owned the kind of Ernie property rights, he sued Green Day. So now the Ernie puppet's only on the very, very early copies of Dookie. My personal CD doesn't have it, but it's pretty cool. All of Blue's sticker variation. All of Blue's sticker variation is referring to how Billy Joe's classic guitar, the Blue Stratocaster that he got filled with stickers, has been remade multiple times with different stickers. Pretty cool. The legend of Trey Cool's lost testicle. This is referring to how Trey Cool only has one testicle. I'll now read an article on how he lost his first one. Trey Cool only has one testicle. He lost the other while in a tragic unicycle accident. He was riding it on stage at a high school near his hometown, when suddenly he fell off the stage and landed on his unicycle. This actually leads us to our last entry on the iceberg. Trey Cool actually went to clown college. Trey Cool actually went to clown college before he got in a band and got big, which explains his wild antics. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for sticking through it, and please like and subscribe if you like this video. It'd help me out a lot. So yeah, I guess I'll see you. Wait, there's one more entry.